Call the meeting to order for Wicomico County Council's Legislative Session 2022-11 for June 7th, 2022. Those that like to stand and join us in the Lord's Prayer and Pledge of Allegiance, please do.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And give this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda, the council, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussions or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. The consent agenda has been approved. This time we have numerous proclamations. First proclamation that we have is the, hang on a second, sorry. Is for Bill McCain has a Rising Star winner, Miss Ashley Kidell? Kidell. Thank you very much. Ashley Kidell. Might she be in the hallway?
She's not here?
We're going to do it anyhow.
Bill, it's your option.
Okay, all right. We will, you want to do it at the end, in case she does show up? or
If you,
wanna-
we'll wait if you want to wait.
Okay, yeah, we got
just let me
several,
know.
just in case she's running a little late or
Let me know.
something. If not, we'll just do it at the end.
All right,
All right, let's do that.
sounds good, thanks. But don't go anywhere. The next proclamation we have, and we do know that she's here, this is to recognize Wicomico County 2022-2023 Teacher of the Year finalist, Miss Kimberly Fitzgerald from James M. Bennett High School. And I think she brought her father and mother.
We have a proclamation here, whereas Ms. Kimberly Fitzgerald, a Spanish teacher at James M. Bennett High School, was chosen amongst the many outstanding educators to represent James M. Bennett High School as the 2022-2023 Wicomico County Teacher of the Year semifinalist. Whereas after an extensive interview process and interview of the semifinalists, Ms. Fitzgerald scored in the top 4 amongst her peers and was named a Wicomico County Teacher of the Year finalist. Whereas Ms. Fitzgerald joins a distinguished group of Wicomico County educators who have been recognized for demonstrating outstanding leadership, dedication to the education of our children, and professional development. Now, therefore, the Wicomico County Council and the acting county executive congratulate Ms. Kimberly Fitzgerald for being named the 2022-2023 Wicomico County Teacher of the Year finalist on the 7th day of June 2022, signed by the county executive and all members of the county council. Congratulations. Need a picture?
I had it checked. He said he would.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You get out of the chair, let me have it, I'm gonna walk it up.
Okay. Well, this will roll.
Oh, really? Okay.
Introduce yourself.
Well, thank you very much. I am a lifelong resident of Wicomico County. I'm a proud alumni of the school system. And yes, I did bring some guests this evening. This is my mom, Sharon Fitzgerald, and my dad, Don Fitzgerald. And by the grace of God today, he was able to have his voice prosthesis put back in, so his voice is back. But I do want to take a moment to say I was blessed by a lot of incredible educators in Wicomico County, and one of which is in this room, Miss Teresa McCain. She was, we won't say what grade I had her, but I had her in middle school. And Sharon DeShiel, my kindergarten teacher. They just were incredible advocates for who I was and accepted me as I was, and a tomboy back in the day. And I'm just so thankful for the recognition, and I love my students. So thank you so much.
Next, we have a proclamation to recognize Jaden Shelton from Mardela Middle and High School for the 1A state championship in the 55-meter hurdle for indoor track, and the 1A state championship in the 110-meter hurdles and the 300-meter hurdles.
It's great to see all these superstars from Wicomico County Public Schools here today. All right, on behalf of the Wicomico County Council, it is with great pleasure that the acting county executive and members of the Wicomico County Council extend a certificate of recognition to Jaden Shelton for winning the 1A indoor track state championship in 55-meter hurdles and the 1A track and field state championships in the 110-meter hurdles and the 300-meter hurdles. We congratulate you on your athletic accomplishments done this 7th day of June 2022, signed by the acting county executive and all 7 of our council members. So, thank you.
Gina wore my Mardela colors in solidarity.
And next, we're pleased and very blessed to have a national celebrity. This is a proclamation for a gentleman who just came off his last performance Friday night. And I think most everybody in this room, and about, I don't know how many thousand, saw it Friday night. About 5,000. 4 to 5,000. That's pretty good. So, without further ado, Jay Copeland for performing on American Idol. If you would, please, we do have a proclamation for you. Your family is welcome to come up there with you and do us a favor. Thank you. If you want to take pictures, you can move completely up as close as you want. You don't have to worry about getting in anybody's way.
I think it was about 2 years ago we was up here with Josh.
Exactly.
2 years ago. So I guess the next person is going to be Madison. It gives me honor and pleasure to present this certificate to Jay. I've known the family for a long time. He comes from a history of singing family, starting with his grandfather, Josh, his uncle, his other uncle Mardela, who's the musician, and his cousin Madison. So I'm gonna read this proclamation. Now, I'm gonna ask you this, because last time Joe wanted to hear Josh sing. So you're gonna have to sing something in order to get this.
Jesus.
Yeah.
There may be a fee for that, Ernie.
Yeah? It is with great pleasure that the acting county executive and the members of the Wicomico County Council extend this certificate of recognition to Jay Copeland for being in the top 7 on American Idol. You made your hometown proud and represented Wicomico very well. We congratulate you on your accomplishments and wish you the best of luck in the future. Done the 7th day of June, 2022.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, it's not on. Y'all want me to sing for real? Y'all heard me on Friday. Wait, really?
That's what we're waiting for.
Okay. What do y'all want to
I
hear?
got to do my phone. Hold on, I need to record that. I thought we were kidding.
I thought so too. Do I need to take a picture with that? No.
We can do that.
Oh, okay. All right.
get stage fright.
No, just don't know what to sing. I'll caught off guard a little bit. Okay. I don't know the key to that song.
I'm yours, I'm signed, sealed, and delivered.
Side to the
September. Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I lost myself on a cold, damp night. I gave myself to that misty light. Was hypnotized by a strange delight. Under a lilac tree. When I think more than I want to think, I do things I never should do. I drink more than I ought to drink, because it brings me back you. Lilac wine, I feel unready for my love. Thank y'all.
Congratulations.
I don't think anyone has gone that far from Salisbury, Wicomico, or to Eastern Shore. I don't think anybody's gotten that far on American Idol, so you are a winner in our books. And it was a pleasure watching you sing with one of my favorite groups, Earth, Wind, and Fire. And now maybe they'll take you on tour with them. Congratulations.
And Jay, thanks so much for bringing joy to the community. You know, the event Friday night, you know, when 4,000 people show up in our community, and it's one of those events when you see everybody there, and you look at their faces, everyone's there just pure joy. And you know, I think as a star, it's something you bring with you that you're able to share, and it's just, we're so honored to have someone from your community sharing that joy among us. So thank you so much. Who's your favorite English teacher?
Thank you very much. The next proclamation we have is to recognize Allie Gray for being named Little Miss Maryland Rodeo. When they say Little Miss Maryland Rodeo, she's 60 pounds, and she roped and turned over a 40-pound goat.
Wow.
Now, where are you from? Little Miss Maryland. And what's the name of your horse? Hero. How long have you been riding? About 2 years. Well, you've done really well in 2 years now. Thank you. We would like to present this certificate of recognition to you, Allie, for all you've done. Okay? A certificate of recognition to Allie Gray for being named Little Miss Maryland Rodeo. In addition, Allie was 3rd overall in goat tying and 4th overall in pole bending, so we can congratulate you on your many accomplishments. Now, what's your plans for the future? You want to be a veterinarian, right? And train horses. Train horses. Well, I think you're going to do really well at that. Okay. But thanks for coming to see us tonight. Okay.
Laura, can you see if Ashley's out there with the? Before we get in the legislative session, I would like to have a moment of silence, if we could, so that our thoughts and prayers can go out to the victims and the families at the Robe Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, as well as, unfortunately, the many other victims we've seen and witnessed throughout the country over the last few weeks. So if we could have a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Excuse me. Thank you very much. At this time, we have two public hearings to go through, and then we will have a special discussion in reference to public school safety directly related to the Uvalde unfortunate set of circumstances in Uvalde, Texas. The first public hearing, Andy Mitchell, if you'll help us out here.
Yes, this is an act to amend Charter 90 of the Wicomico County Code titled Tax Exemptions 2, add a new section 90-6 to be titled Property Tax Credit for Disabled Law Enforcement Officers, Correctional Officers, Rescue Workers, and Surviving Spouse of a Fallen Law Enforcement Officer, Correctional Officer, or Rescue Worker. It sets up a mechanism by which people in the particular class can request and receive a tax exemption on their county real estate tax, sets a cap and things of that nature.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. At this time, we open the floor for a public hearing on legislative bill number 2022-07. If you have any comments that you'd like to make in reference to this bill, come to the podium. Please state your name, your county of residence, and your concerns.
Evening. John Hilton, Wicomico County. Many of y'all know who I am, know where I stand on a lot of things for the fire service. My concern with this bill is, as you look around this room tonight, you see no one here in support of it from corrections, fire service, or police service. I think it would be better use time to go back and reevaluate this and try to get support on this from them before you go ahead and pass this further. Most of the gentlemen and ladies that are going to benefit from this bill have received some form of workman's compensation or disability payment. I feel this is almost like a double dip at the same time. I understand it is a thank you and is an appreciated thank you by most. But I think this is just going and doing a little more than what the county should be doing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hilton. Any other public comments?
Tim Arnett, Wicomico County. I'll echo the same sentiments. I've been here for several meetings in support of this bill. The reason why there's not more support here is simply because they're working. We all know that the people in those positions, the spots, are hard to fill. There's multiple vacancies. It's hard to get people to do things at this hour during the week, things like that. So there's a very simple answer for why there's no people here. But I'm here to support it. This is a very simple gesture to say thank you to the workers that do get injured or, God forbid, killed in the line of duty in this county. We do have workers' comp benefits. Those are state benefits. We don't have anything from the county that says thank you for their years and years of service to this county. This is a very simple, we've talked about it. It has very little tax impact. So we're not talking about a county giving millions of dollars to someone who may not deserve it. We're talking about a very small thank you over the time to a spouse, widow, the actual person who was injured in a $1,500 cap for a tax credit. I'm going to ask for an amendment tonight that I talked about 2 meetings ago that has to do with the reciprocal language for this bill. And the reason that's important is because we don't have a county fire department here that is career paid fire department. So we force people to go outside the county to look for that employment. If they're injured outside of the county, the way the bill's written right now, they will not receive that credit. So we're punishing them for not having a fire department here and either having to move outside the county or seek employment outside the county. If we do the reciprocal language that I proposed a couple meetings ago as written, this would allow other jurisdictions that have the same law in place, very few of them, if those people are working for those jurisdictions, to get that benefit here. So it's not all state, it's not all nation, it's not even all of the area, the Delmarva area, it's a very small number. It's a total of 4 counties, I believe. So the amendment needs to be written so that it's reciprocal, so that those people that had to seek employment outside the county to do the job that they loved and were injured and or killed can take part in this legislation here in this county for living in this county for as long as they have and having to seek employment outside. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arnett. Any other public comments? That concludes the public comments for legislative bill number 2022-07. Entertain a motion from council to approve legislative bill 2022-07.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion. Any discussion?
Can we discuss what Mr. Arnett just went over about the reciprocity?
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering why, I can't remember why we didn't include it.
I think.
I thought that we did.
No, we didn't.
We
I think
didn't.
it was.
That's
made
what I
because-
thought.
I think it was because we said if you don't work in the county, it was for the people that worked in the county that benefited from it. Not that you live here and work in another county or another state that you benefit from it. It was the people that work and live in the county.
I'd like to make a motion then to add that language to it, reciprocal.
Well, if you're talking reciprocity, we would need to know more specifically which counties you're referencing or whether you're talking states. I mean, we initially limited it to Wicomico County because we wanted to be only for firefighters that lived in Wicomico County. If you have firefighters that live in Washington County or somewhere else, and they get, they move to Wicomico County, I think there was a concern that taxpayers in Wicomico County would be paying for that, for their benefit.
So can we limit it just to the other 4 counties that also offer this tax credit?
Well, the bill as it is right now does state that, that if it's a matter of mutual aid, where Wicomico County is assisting Dorchester, or Wicomico is assisting somewhere else, then yes, they will be compensated.
I think that was the main reason that, we decided to leave it like this, because they were covered in that situation.
Right, and I think if it were another county such as Dorchester, I think it would be good for Dorchester to pass a law like this for their firefighters in Dorchester County. And if they're doing mutual aid in Wicomico, then they could find that same benefit.
Okay.
So there is a motion. Was there a second?
Larry did.
Larry, second. Okay. Any further discussion on the proposed amendment for reciprocity? All those in favor of the amendment say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
And the chair is opposed. Any further discussion on legislative bill 2022-07? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of legislative bill 2022-07 say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Legislative bill passes. All right, thank you very much. Mrs. Hurley. Good evening.
Okay, good evening, Mr. President, council members, ladies and gentlemen. Next on the agenda this evening is a public hearing on a proposed amendment to the fiscal years 2023-2027 capital improvement program and fiscal year 2023 capital budget. This is to reduce the general obligation bond in the amount of $1,021,958 for the Board of Education, Mardela Middle High, renovation addition project, and to increase PAYGO funding for that project in the same amount. A public hearing notice was posted on the county's website and published in a local newspaper. You'll notice that this is just the public hearing. The resolution for this request is on the agenda, but it's farther down on the agenda after the budget.
Thank you, Mrs. Hurley. At this time, we open the floor for a public hearing in reference to the amendment to the fiscal year 2023-2027 capital improvement program. If you have any comments or concerns, come to the podium. Please state your name and your county residence and those concerns. Seeing none, that concludes the public hearing on the proposed amendment to the fiscal year's 2023-2027 capital improvement program.
Next is the discussion on the Wicomico County Public School Safety, and we have with us our acting county executive. He's around here somewhere, and we have our Sheriff Mike Lewis. We have Dr. Donna Hanlon, Superintendent of Schools.
Mr. George Tunis, CEO and owner of Hardwire LLC.
And Miss Emily Tunis,
And Miss Emily, yes.
who really runs the show.
I was going to say that.
And Ms. Kim Miles is also here. If you could, even though we introduce everybody, we'd like you to introduce yourselves at the table so that the people watching know who is whom, and et cetera. Mr. Sutter, are you going to join us? Grab a chair. Okay. We'll go from my left to right. Go ahead. Just let us know who you are and your position.
Good evening. Kim Miles, Assistant Superintendent with Student and Family Services, Wicomico County Public Schools.
Good evening, Donna Hanlon, Superintendent, Wicomico County Public Schools.
Good evening, Sheriff Mike Lewis, Wicomico County.
Good evening, George Tunis, CEO of Hardwire.
Hi, I'm Emily Tunis. I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer of Hardwire.
John Soda, Acting County Executive for Wicomico County.
Great. All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate you all being here. Sheriff, we would let you begin if you'd like.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mr. President, you mentioned a while ago the events that unfolded 3 weeks ago up in Buffalo, New York, that took the lives of 10 Americans, injured multiple others. And then 1 week later, 2 weeks ago today, we had the event that unfolded down in Uvalde, Texas. It took the lives of 18 students and 2 educators. These are horrific tragedies, and I hate to change the tide of the great vibe that we had going in this room just 10 minutes ago when Jay Copeland and other recipients were in here of those proclamations. But the reality is this is 2022. And the very next day, on Wednesday morning, following the events that unfolded just hours earlier in Texas, I met with my command staff, specifically met with our SWAT team operators, and decided that we were going to retrain and re-educate all of our school resource deputies on what they are currently doing here in Wicomico County. While I will not publicly disclose what that training will be, and I will not publicly disclose what we intend to do, I can tell you it was hours later I received a phone call on a Saturday after I met with my guys again Friday afternoon from Mr. George Tunis and Miss Emily Tunis, seated to my immediate left. They reached out to me on a weekend to talk about working closely with law enforcement and the boards of education in the Tri-County region to better harden our schools. As you all know, Hardwire LLC has an incredible reputation for providing all types of armor, not just for law enforcement, but for our U.S. military, our federal law enforcement agencies. Most recently, they won a contract with the FBI. I have toured their plant down in Wicomico. They are an enormous asset, not just to our country, but the most recently, they have been working very closely, as late as today, with the Ukrainians, and they are flying thousands of kits of armor over to the Ukraine to assist our Ukrainian brothers and sisters in that war, in their war effort. But this man has reached out to us and wants to team not just with law enforcement, but the 3 boards of education in the Tri-County area to help us harden our schools and protect our children. And I am extremely grateful and honored to be seated here at the table, Mr. and Mrs. George and Emily Tunis. And I have discussed this with Dr. Hanlon. And again, while we won't publicly disclose what we intend to do, I would like to ask Mr. George Tunis to give a little introduction of what he would like to offer Wicomico County.
Thank you.
And Miss Emily.
Yes, that was an incredibly kind statement. And every day, you know, our job really is to shorten the line at Heaven's Gate. My dad passed away recently, and it was right after that, just hours after it, Uvalde unfolded. And for almost a day, I didn't believe in hell. And then I saw it again. And that's when it took a little while to digest. And I can tell you that we've been on this mission since Sandy Hook, because I had 2 younger children, both of them. One's a graduate from Virginia Tech, one's very close, 1 more year to go, where another mass casualty event had unfolded. And they understand now the magnitude of this. And when you come to a meeting like this, and it starts with the Pledge of Allegiance, I haven't done that in a while, that was incredible. And then, you know, you meet one of the school teachers of the year, and then you meet American Idol star, and you meet a little rodeo star, and you're like, that is exactly who we are here to protect.
Absolutely.
And we have the technology to do it. We have the means to do it. And we have rolled this out repeatedly after each shooting. After Sandy Hook, we started with just Worcester Prep and some of the private schools because it was a beginning of a concept. And in America, it was a very raw nerve. And we were looking at assault rifles, but didn't necessarily have the technology to cover this in mass, certainly as just a company. Years later, the nightclub shootings unfolded. We covered Secrets is covered in armor. Inside that, for all their staff, if there was ever a mass shooting event, they're trained, they have armor on site. There are other nightclubs around the country that have it. Now we're in all 50 states. But then Parkland unfolded. And after that shooting, we put a pilot program of all level 3 shields, so assault rifle protection, in Wicomico High School. We were like, this cannot happen in literally my backyard. We can't have one of the premier armor companies in the world and have this happen in our backyard. So we piloted it where we were putting up shields near fire extinguishers, positioned strategically. Many of them are right next to fire extinguishers. They look like fire extinguishers. And then this unfolded. And I watched the events, and we learned from it, and we don't want to second guess any of it because it's confusing, it's fast. To some people, it lasts forever. To other people, it may only last in their minds a few seconds. It just unfolds so quickly and so unexpectedly that if we don't have shields and armor in the schools, then it's not where it needs to be. And it needs to be just like a fire extinguisher. It doesn't have to be scary. What we make is a level 3 shield that looks like a fire extinguisher. Mike's going to be doing a lot of training. If at any time anybody forgets their training, it's literally on the back. So just like a fire extinguisher, it's grab, position, protect, disable. So this follows the run, hide, fight doctrine. It can be used by law enforcement. It can be used by able-bodied teachers. It can be used by SROs. It can be used by students that are of appropriate physical size and age. If you pick it up upside down, the directions are upside down. The first time I ever picked it up, it was upside down. And most importantly, it is mobile. So it hangs on the wall. It can be grabbed, position, protect. If I had to disable, this would be a hard guy to take. With this, it's a piece of cake. So what we wanted to propose was enough to make a statement. And not just a statement for the sake of making a statement. Our employees, every single one of them, with a few exceptions, live in Virginia. We're going to discount them because we're Marylanders. Live in Worcester, Wicomico, and Somerset counties. And if a school shooting breaks out, my employees will not come to work. I can tell you that they are going to be worried about their kids. These are family-destroying events, and we cannot let that happen in our community. We'll start here, and we'll speak with a national voice, and other things will happen. This is just one layer of defense. Great training is part of it. Law enforcement is part of it. Mental health counseling is part of it. Legislation will occur at some point, but that usually takes time. And we need, as a country, to have a bias towards action. We need to address the mental health of the masses. The little boy and girl, when I called you on Saturday, I had overheard, on the news, a discussion by one little boy that was a survivor that lost all his friends, and one little girl that was in the room. And they were both traumatized and terrified. And if we can't listen to those two voices and do something immediately, then when it's our turn at Heaven's Gate, we haven't done our job. So we as a company said, we can afford to cover the Tri-County area. We can donate 1,600 shields. I think that does it. That's about $480,000 worth. If we have to round it up to $500,000, we will. But we will do that, and we will make that statement, and we will do it in concert with you if it fits your purposes. If it doesn't, we understand. It's okay, but we would like to make that statement, and we hope we have the same experience that we had in New York City. We've armored every single 911 response vehicle in New York City. Thousands and thousands of cars and command centers. And
You've armored their bridges, too.
We've also armored their bridges. What's amazing in New York City was about every 6 months, 2 officers were killed in their police cars, usually doing their work on the computer. They weren't paying attention. They were outflanked, and they were shot. And that was occurring. That was 7 years ago we started armoring cars. Thousands of cars later, and 7 years later, not a single police car has been shot at, not one. And what that proves is hardened targets are not attacked. Bad guys will pick on weak targets. They will not pick on hardened targets. This is a way for us to harden the shore, set an example for the country with a bias towards action, and take care of exactly the people that were in here singing, accepting awards, and little rodeo stars. That's who we work for.
What's amazing is there are 14 different rounds of ammo that are generally shot through an AR-15, including green tip being armored piercing ammunition. This shield right here will stop that round. We'll stop that round.
It'll stop clips of that list. And just as police officers put themselves in the line of fire, that's their job. When they always say, you taught me this, when they're shooting at you, they're not shooting at the students. When they're shooting at this shield, they're not shooting at the students, and it will bounce off, and it will take clips of ammunition. We will absolutely slow the person down. They will be shooting at the last thing they will see, I guarantee you, because this is a defensive weapon, but it is also very much an offensive weapon. The last thing the shooter will see before he is overpowered by one of these is going to be a big red blob. I can assure you of that, because people fixate on center of mass. They will fixate on that color. We see that in all kinds of training exercises where the shooters shoot exactly at the shield. That's what they're looking at. You can close the distance in a matter of seconds. And even small individuals, given the mass of this, can take on active shooters, and they can do it quickly. Most importantly, it's where the SROs are going to need it. It's distributed throughout the schools because the SRO is your first line of defense. When police arrive, Uvalde, the first thing that happened was we lost 20 minutes waiting for shields, because it is scary when you're up against an AR. There's no question. It is overwhelming firepower. And a whole pile full of dead bodies does not take a shooter down. Having shields is something that we're seeing across the United States with police forces. It's something our special forces use to breach buildings. The al-Baghdadi raid, one of our shields was in that. So this is not a new concept. It's actually a very old concept. It's something that's been piloted across the United States with great success, where teachers have found it very empowering. Students have found it curious. Empowering, it depends on the age. It'll get posted on Instagram. It'll find its way out there for about 3 days. And then it blends in with the fire extinguishers, and hopefully no one ever thinks about it again, except for the trained that are going to make sure they know where they are and they can use them and go to work with them. So we'd like to make that offer. I think it can make a real difference, and I don't think it's the only thing that you should do. But by any stretch. There's, hardening the schools, making sure the locks work, making sure teachers are trained to use their keys quickly. All those things went wrong in Uvalde. It was as simple as a door didn't lock. All of those things need to be paid attention to. This is just another layer of defense, just like a fire extinguisher.
And we'll work very closely with the Board of Education and Dr. Donna Hanlon and Ms. Kim Miles to make sure that we collaborate with them every step of the way. Our goal is to have, obviously, one of these in every classroom. And I want to say this very publicly. There's enormous amounts of information, and undoubtedly a lot of it's misinformation coming out of what happened down at Robb Elementary School. But I can assure you something went wrong. No one should have waited to go in that school. Ever since Parkland, and way back before Parkland, we had Sandy Hook. And before Sandy Hook, of course, we all know we had the events that unfolded out in Columbine. But I can tell you all the training that's been taught for the last 10 years is we wait for no one. We go in alone. And the object is to draw the fire from the innocents and draw the fire towards you. And that's what we are taught to do. And I can't understand for the life of me, other than a police district school chief. Now, I've never heard of a police district school chief. I certainly haven't. But maybe that's unique to Texas. But this individual obviously was not trained in the latest active shooter training. And his subordinates followed, unfortunately. And that's the only thing I can think that went wrong. But I cannot imagine that happening here in Wicomico County. We will wait for no one. With or without armor, we're going in. And the fact that I was contacted by George and Emily on a Saturday morning while they were having breakfast to generously offer what they're offering us here tonight is just incredible. And I can't thank you both enough for what you're doing for the Ukrainians and what you're doing here for those in the Tri-County area of the Eastern Shore. God bless you both, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. You don't know how much I appreciate what you're doing. And I know Dr. Hanlon and Ms. Kim Miles will work very closely together, and we'll make this happen.
Could you, so that it doesn't go over the head of any individuals who are watching this, could you repeat one more time, Mr. Tunis, if you could, the generous offer that you are making, what that is, what that value is, so that the people and the public really recognize exactly what this means to Wicomico County and the three-county area?
Based on our calculations, and using Wicomico High School as one of our models, and using literally fire code as a model and looking at the schools, we calculated in the Tri-County area it would take about 1,600 shields to cover those schools, roughly with one per fire extinguisher location. So using fire code as a model, it would be great to have one in every single classroom, but it becomes very difficult to afford as a first step. Now, you can also certainly make that as a second step. We're offering, we think it's going to be roughly 1,600 shields to do the Tri-County areas, a few less in some of the smaller schools, a few more in some of the bigger schools, but it should be roughly 30 per school. And when you look at the number of schools, it works out to roughly 1,600 shields, and that has a value of $480,000. After seeing Jay sing, if we have to round it up to a mean $500,000, I'm happy to do that. I mean, we want to get this right, roll it out correctly. I think keeping in fire code, one of the stories that I think is really, as an entrepreneur, as an inventor, as somebody that, there was a guy hundreds of years ago, maybe more than 100 years ago, invented the fire extinguisher. And most people don't realize that the fire extinguisher was invented for 100 years before it was legislated into code to be put into buildings every 75 feet. So one of the world's greatest inventions, simplest inventions, the fire extinguisher, which has gotten me out of hot water 3 times in my career. I've had 3 industrial fires, and if I didn't have a fire extinguisher, I would have burned my company down 3 separate times over 30 years. So think of it as once per 10 years, a fire extinguisher saved me. That one simple thing saved me once a decade, and it went 100 years without being legislated in. We now have tools, as we look at this problem. It wasn't a problem when I was in elementary school or grade school or high school. It's not anything I dealt with as a young person. Our young people are dealing with this now every day, and there are mass shootings happening all the time in all kinds of venues, not just schools. So having this fire extinguisher analogy, I don't think we should wait 100 years. And I think the time for action is now, and I think we should be biased towards action. not just biased towards finger pointing or long-term change. Long-term change will occur, but it becomes very politicized. This just becomes about the students, about the teachers, about the first responders, and having a tool so that if they can run, great. If they can hide, wonderful. But they do not have a tool that they can fight with against assault weapons, and we can fix that in our Tri-County area.
The reason we have fire codes is because people died. So your analogy is right on point. So
I would say on behalf of the Wicomico County Council and the 100,000 and the acting county executive and the 100,000 citizens of Wicomico County, I'd like to first congratulate you on your extraordinary success. And we're very fortunate that you live on the eastern shore of Maryland.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for your generous offer. We do appreciate that very much. So thank you.
Are you going to train the other agencies within the county?
It looks like you need to press your.
Joe switched on me.
Oh, there you go.
that's what
Yeah, I was talking with Sheriff Christopher Foley again this morning. We're going to do this collaboratively.
Good.
Absolutely.
Good idea.
Thanks, George, and thanks, Mike.
Yes, sir.
I would like to hear, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but, any comments, Donna, you'd like to share? I mean, we're talking about schools here, so, I want to, and just not on the, the back end resolutions such as this, from a protective standpoint, but on the front end side of things to, try to keep these kind of events and episodes from happening. But anything, you might want to share along those lines, I'll give you an opportunity here.
Sure, yeah, thank you. So I will just also echo our appreciation for your generosity, and I will work with Sheriff Lewis, and my successor will work with Sheriff Lewis, and along with conversations with our board about next steps where that's concerned. We do, as Sheriff Lewis said, we really can't talk specifics in terms of strategies for safety that we have in our schools, except those strategies that people are well aware of, secure vestibules and things like that. I did ask Mrs. Miles to join me so that she can share some of those things with the community, because we know that this is an area of huge concern, as it should be. It is our top priority, and we are having conversations about it every day and working in great partnership with the Sheriff's Office through our liaisons there. So, Kim, do you want to just go through some of the things we have in place?
Glad to, and I would be remiss not to share my appreciation as well for what you have seen, what you have done, and what you are doing now. I'm also going to say that I'm going to borrow a phrase from you, and that is to be biased towards action. That just really resounds with me. And I would like to apply that to Wicomico County Public Schools and Wicomico County Board of Education in what I'm about to share. I hadn't thought about it through that lens, but I truly think we have been biased towards action. There's the preventive and there's the responsive. And looking at the resources that we have in our schools and in our school system, we have equipment that is focused on safety of all. We have technology that is implemented for the safety of all. And we have staffing, human resource that is for the safety of all. The mention of mental health. We have been able to fully support and continue to grow our crisis teams, our school response teams. Our school social worker cadre has grown to include coverage in every single one of our schools with social workers. The increase in school psychologists. Some of their work is responsive. The majority of their work is interpretive and is preventive in terms of addressing identified needs and educating on the well-being of self and the well-being of others. With regard to technology, obviously, please, Sheriff Lewis, I did not mean to move to technology before included in our human resource, our SROs. Our team, I was actually with Sergeant Weersberg this morning. We meet regularly, and we have a very strong and positive relationship between our school administrators and our SROs. It's very much a team approach, always with the focus on safety of everyone. So we are very fortunate to have that relationship, and it has continued to grow through the years. Additionally, we have staff members, including campus patrol, people who are designated to be out and about on the campus. They are eyes and ears at all points in time. I mentioned our crisis teams. I don't want to go through the entire list, but we have a Medico key system. It's a very advanced key system that has very strict constraints and very tight oversight to know who has access to what and when. Very, very important. As well, the system that, with your support, we have been able to have in place with our communication tools, our radios. We are in direct communication with the Sheriff's Department as needed and across our entire system. We have the Raptor system. I'm not going into detail because, as Sheriff Lewis mentioned earlier, we don't put the details out there. That is for us to know and to implement and to continue to enhance and support. But these are overviews. The Raptor system is our emergency management, our crisis management, our visitor management system. It serves many roles and helps us to know at any point in time who is in a building, where are they, and what is their purpose for being there, among other things. Our work with the Maryland Center for School Safety is without reproach. They are a wonderful partner, and we work with them locally and on a state approach to all aspects of safety within our school, as well as the Maryland Center for Safe Schools tip line. If you haven't visited it, please, wcboe.org, click on For Students, and you will see something, say something. And it'll take you to the site and tells you that you can report any area of concern, whether it's a web form, a phone call, or a text. You're able to do that and able to add information. I will tell you that it has been utilized on numerous occasions. I am one of the 3 people who receive automatic reports when something is submitted and there's an immediate response. We also have just under 1,300 cameras in place in 32 sites throughout our school system. Those are monitored and managed and are accessible literally at a click on a computer at any point in time. And then we have things that are more of the everyday intervention, crowd control equipment, the pickup tags for elementary. I'm sure you've seen them riding around this wonderful county, the black and gold placards hanging from the rearview mirrors. We make sure that the child gets to the right adult at the end of the day in our elementary schools. So again, just some of the items on the list, and without detail, I appreciate your respect and understanding for the reason why we don't share that, but with full assurance that as wonderful, as amazing, as supportive as the items on this list presented continue to be, we are continuously growing and look forward to our work with Sheriff Lewis and with Mr. and Mrs. Tunis and the company as we continue to identify any area that needs to be enhanced, needs to be investigated, needs to be addressed, excuse me, and we continue to do that for the well-being and safety of everyone in our school system. And we appreciate your support in doing so in many ways.
I'll just add one more item that Kim didn't mention, that, or I don't think she did, that every one of our schools has a school safety plan that is reviewed every year, updated every year, approved by the Maryland Center for School Safety, and on file in the Sheriff's Office. So I feel like you can always do more, but we're constantly looking for, we feel like we're in a good place, but we're constantly looking for additional strategies that we can use to make sure that our students and staff are safe.
I would also like to add, one of the issues that came out down in Robb Elementary down in Texas was they were waiting to get a key to enter a room by a custodian. Our school resource deputies have master keys for our schools. I have a set of master keys in my vehicle that stay with me at all time to enter our schools. So it's another issue. I don't understand how that happened and why it happened, but I feel we're certainly ahead of the ball game here. We've been working on a number of things for many years, but this was an eye-opening experience for all of us, and what a great time to retrain, re-educate, and realign our priorities for the children of Wicomico County.
Thanks, Sheriff. Yes, Josh.
Just a real brief comment that, the first time I heard of the name Columbine was actually not before the shooting. It was because my sister's then high school boyfriend went to Columbine High School. This was 1999, 98 when he kept going back and forth. That's where his dad lived. He was actually in the class with Dylan Klebold. Luckily, he was back in Mardela at that point in time, wasn't at the shooting. You know, I'm about to be 40 years old. We are, you know, I'm the generation of the mass shootings. You know, while I was sitting here, I did some quick, just looking around, making sure the numbers here. In the United States, nearly 15 mass shootings just this past weekend. And I'm not talking about the regular shootings that we have, like Snow Hill, the other, you know, and others that we have regularly, but 15 just this past weekend. With that, more than 70 injured, upwards of 20 dead. So far in 2022, we've had 246 mass shootings. 2021, we had more than 700 mass shootings. We're averaging now about 11 mass shootings per week. You know, after the Uvalde situation, you know, I continue to hear the conversations of folks saying, oh, well, maybe we need to have more of our kids have backpack shields and other devices and things like that. But, you know, I do appreciate the kindness that you all are putting forward, and I appreciate the work that you're doing. But, you know, you specifically, you mentioned making a statement. You know, with my conversations that I've had with educators in the last week, the statement that they want to hear is for folks like yourself to be able to say that a battlefield weapon is not supposed to be aimed at our kids, should not be in the hands of people. But we're well beyond that. So I guess going forward, I'm glad to see measures like this. I follow the leadership of the schools. If that's what you all feel like is best and good for the educators who are here, who are in the thick of it, fantastic. But we have a societal issue, and no amount of thoughts and prayers, no amount of of saying that we that we need, it's mental health issue. Yeah, of course, it's a lot combined, but, you know, you could finish the sentence if I were to say all of these mass shootings wouldn't happen if. So with that, I'll leave it, but I do appreciate the generosity that you all are putting forward. I appreciate that your leadership. I'm glad that you all are thinking so clearly in the school system about school safety, but the status quo is simply unacceptable.
Again, thank you, Mr. Tunis. Mr. Tunis, we appreciate your generosity again. Sheriff, I assure you, I feel that Wicomico County and all the citizens of Wicomico County feel extremely safe with you in the position that you're in. I think we've always felt that confidence. And I would say the same thing for Dr. Hanlon and the Board of Education and your staff as well. We have the utmost confidence in what you're trying to do to the benefit of our children and the benefit of Wicomico County as a whole. So again, thank you very much, and we really appreciate you taking the time. I know you have a busy schedule, and we appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight and your generous contribution. So thank you very much.
It's okay, we work on Saturdays.
Dr. Hanlon, we're going to go through some things. If you would, we will ask you, if you'll hang around.
Thank you guys very much.
Hey, Mike,
Yes,
could you and Dr. Hanlon stay until we do another resolution?
absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to just tune this out, and I'll be right back with you.
Yeah.
Okay, next on the agenda is the submission of 2 appointments to the Wicomico County Board of Library Trustees, an appointment to the Wicomico County Commission for Women, an appointment to the Animal Appeals Board, and 3 reappointments to the Wicomico County Tourism and Civic Center Commission. Charter Section 315B indicates, quote, appointments by the county executive to membership on a board or commission shall be subject to confirmation by the county council. If the council fails to act to confirm or reject any appointment within 45 days of its submission to the county council at its legislative session by the county executive, the appointment shall stand approved, end quote. The acting county executive has submitted several names for council's confirmation to boards and commissions. We'll start with resolution number 54-2022. This is confirming the reappointment of Christopher A. Bitters to the Wicomico County Tourism and Civic Center Commission. Resolution number 55-2022 is confirming the reappointment of William R. Chambers to the Wicomico County Tourism and Civic Center Commission. Resolution number 56-2022 is confirming the reappointment of Bakilesh Patel